Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome for round 2 on Monday morning. It is 10:27, almost 28, and it is the 25th of May. We're doing our weekly Monday interview slot at 10:30. So let me say hello to a bunch of people who've jumped on board. I'm literally always saying, well done, Vince, on being first for each slot. But hello, Kieran, Michael, Collier, Keenan. Good day, Teresa. Thank you for joining. There are 30 of you logged in so far, and we've got a minute or two to be able to get our conversation up and running. I'd love to hear who, thank you, Colin, welcome back to you too. I'd love to hear who's watching from some location outside of the greater Mandela Bay area. So if you're watching from somewhere else, please comment and let us know where you're watching from. At 10:30, I'm going to switch to an interview with a couple of really cool people and hear what they have to say. I'll introduce you to them, and then we'll have a conversation about what church in the very near future looks like, right? We'll go to level 3 in a week's time. Doesn't directly affect Sunday, of course. Hello, Jackson, but it does affect our progress a little. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for jumping on board. We will, in a minute, I'll introduce you to, hello Jackie, hello Linda. I'll introduce you to some people living far and near, with Ryan LaRue probably living the furthest within the greater Mandela Bay area. And then I got some young men out in Pretoria, Chris Gadbe, suffering for Jesus in Jeffreys Bay, and the rest of us hard at work in an actual metro. No. Okay. Lashy, good evening. Good morning. I don't know why I said evening. Good morning to you too. Thank you very much for joining. Quick reminder, this will be the last broadcast today. We do 2 broadcasts on a Monday. We do 3 on Tuesday, so be ready for that. We go live at 10:30 and 7:30 p.m. Have a look at your TV schedule. We sent you an email, so you should have all those details at your fingertips every Friday. Okay, good morning. Nolene, thank you for saying hello from Uitenhage. Good to see one or Diane. Good day. 1 or 2. Bloemfontein represented in the house. Okay, Yanni, thank you for saying evening, although I meant morning. You know what I meant. I'm going to pray that Jesus gets you back for that. Okay, so Ryan tells me that we've now paid forward over 2,000 cups of coffee for heroes. So expect to get some feedback this week on how that's been going and the distribution of those cups of coffee to people on the front line in the medical profession. So thank you very much, everybody, for doing that. You're welcome to continue to go to that link and support our medical staff, who are by no means done, are expecting still the most work coming their way for this virus. So, Jared, good morning out in Ireland. Thank you for joining. Nice to see you. Dispatch Celeste. Pastor George, your mouse has migrated to our house. Could you bring the dog? Jenny, let me explain something to you. It's not my mouse, and I'm very sad to say that I purchased a final meal for my mice, and I offered it to them on a silver platter. They partook, and 2 days later I did a memorial service for 4 mice. So good luck with yours. I was no longer willing to take the competition. Actually, I'll tell you where they crossed the line with me. They had a go at my millie plants. They ate the root seed thing. No. Ain't no rat gonna come and take my inheritance. Okay, that's too far. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. So, yeah, good luck there, Jenny. I'll be thinking of you. Good morning, Tracy, Jerry. Good morning, out in Joburg. Colin, did we pray for rain on Sunday? I'm not even sure, Colin, but I'm praying all the time for it. We did this morning again. And Jackson, are you laughing at my mouse antics? They were proper mice, like they were small little mice, but I'm done. All right, everybody, it is 10:32, time to go to the Zoom conversation. Thank you very much for joining. Now, if I'm successful, I hit a button and I introduce you to a bunch of other people on the screen. So let's hold thumbs and pray that I get this right. Here we go. And there it is, everybody. Confirm. Oh, lots of people jumped on board now. Confirm that you're both able to see and hear us clearly. We do have people. Teresa, stop laughing at me. We do have people on the back end of this broadcast who can help. Now, let me tell you who's who in the equation. On the top left corner of your screen is Dean Cottiel. He's the online pastor. So technically, we all work under his department during lockdown. But that's just technically, right? Yeah, of course, I'm there. Then on the right, in front of all that academic sort of backdrop of books, is Mr. Ryan LaRue. He is the COO of Father's House, Watch Me Annoy Him Global, and is responsible for all campuses everywhere around the world. And he has an MBA. I don't know where he has it, but he has it. And then pictured beneath Dean is Vincent. We know Vince, of course, as the extraordinary worship leader, songwriter, all-round nice guy. Vince has about 400 best friends, and then a remarkable capacity for people. And is our worship director. Madler is pictured next to him. Madler is the site pastor responsible for the main broadcast venue, North End, here in Mandela Bay. So Madler makes sure that it runs as a church ought to run and looks after that location. And I do most of the preaching for most of the locations, both in the venue and on screen. And then below Ryan and to the right of Madler is Anthony Jacobs. Anthony is twice my height. Fairly recent dad, married to a dominee, and a phenomenal planner, people guy, and coordinator. He's actually responsible as site pastor for Utenake. So that's Anthony. And then, you know, the two guys that fell out of a movie, a James Bond movie, seated next to each other, happened to be dressed rather similarly with sort of plants on either side. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to read into the types of plants, but I somehow feel like that was intentional. To your left is Israel, to your right is Levi. They are Fushir brothers and are rolling up their sleeves and working towards this discussion we're having on churches beyond one location. And that is Israel. We've been in conversations over Cape Town, and Levi over the Joburg, Pretoria, or possibly Durban, or possibly LA. I mean, the world lies before us. And next to him is Chris Gerber, our side pastor, together with his family out in J-Bay. Appropriately dressed there with a cap on and just the J-Bay life. So that's everybody. Say hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
Vincent is asking Levi and Israel if they're trying to mock the Between Two Ferns interview conversations with another Greek guy called George. Ah, dear Lord. Can't hear you. All right. So everybody, if you're wondering what this conversation is about, here it is. About 2 years ago, we started a journey where we recognized that where people live it doesn't necessarily mean that they are disconnected from church life, Father's House style. We realize that the way the world works, we can join and receive content, connection, relationship, and revelation from people anywhere around the world, as long as they're available online. Many of you watch people like Stephen Furtick, or have connection with churches like Robert Morris and Gateway Church, or Sean Napstead and many others. So we recognized that the church is no longer and should never be limited to a building or geography. And some of you moved from Mandela Bay and went into other cities, but continue to watch online. So we asked ourselves a question: how do we serve you as your church, if you consider us your home. We started asking, how do we dedicate your kids and marry you off? And how do we create connection? And how do we do discipleship? And how do we mature you in your faith when most of your exposure is on a screen? And we began to recognize there are ways of doing that. And that is by establishing a little policy, a little plan. Hello, don't skip Joburg. Trophy, did I skip Joburg? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm specifically mentioning Joburg right now as the unique center of God's plans and purposes for Joburg. Sorry, Tracy. Thank you for correcting me. And so we recognize there needs to be a plan, and we've called the plan an on-screen to on-stage plan. So you start with this straightforward. You watch at home on your own, live on Sunday or some other time in the week. And then what about the thought of having a number of people doing that, and when the time is right, get those groups of people, the individuals rather, together to a room and all watch together. A room we book so that you don't have strangers in your home. And if you have a room of people, you need a leader in the room. And so you have a site pastor or a site leader who gathers people and coordinates it. It makes it look, feel, and experience like home, what we've done in Port Elizabeth, Jeffreys Bay and Utenay. And then as we progress, perhaps people in that room have musical talent or ability or calling or gift. And so we introduce them onto the stage to lead the worship part. And so the screen portion diminishes and the stage portion increases. And so you use it as a tool to build communities all over the world, wherever there are a handful of people that start to show a bit of momentum and traction. So that's where we are. Tracy, thank you for forgiving me. Pastor, on camera, we see you talking sideways. Oh, yes, I must look here. Right, I'm not there. Thank you very much. Who's that? Nolan, you're being assigned to the production department from next Sunday. If you can get hold of Dean, you are now officially a volunteer at thank you for reminding me to look at the right camera. Not one of you WhatsApped me and told me to look at the right camera. So I'm looking at the right camera now. Okay, so that's the plan. On screen to on stage, wherever you are around the world. So let's start with what's already happened and where things already are at. Dean, we've got an online community already. Talk to me about what that looks like and what it is.
Good morning, Pastor George. Good morning, everybody. It's absolutely incredible to be able to share with you like this. Yeah, our online community has been going for a couple of years now. About a year ago, we created our Facebook group. We're seeing in our FH online group well over 1,000 people connecting there from various geographic locations. So it's absolutely amazing to, in the past, we used to connect on a Sunday and we would connect with people in Dubai and New Zealand and the States and Canada. It was absolutely incredible to be able to share an experience with people using the technology that we have at our disposal to share the gospel. And those roads now, even more so during this COVID-19 time, have been made available to all of us. So it's incredible. So the online church is alive and well.
So people can ask to join the group and connect. Yeah. And then there are devotions that go through that and customized content for people not living in Mandela Bay.
There you go. Absolutely.
Got it.
And that was, we've been going for about a year now. We had weekly devotions. We share group chats. We do pretty much what a normal, in inverted commas, I mean, I don't even know if we know what normal means anymore when we talk about what a normal church looks like. But it's about the shared experience of community on those platforms. So we try and use technology to go down those roads to connect with people all over the world. So if you would like to join that group, and now as we've explored the Corona new world, we've gone and created those Facebook groups for the actual geographic locations too. So as I look at the Fisher brothers, Cape Town and Johannesburg also have those online groups now. So what we're doing is just creating a bridge between what can happen online and what will eventually happen on the ground again.
So, so there are a couple of levels of church at the moment represented on the screen. There's the fully fledged broadcast location, worship and word live experience in North End. But there is gathering as a church in Uitenhage and in Jeffreys Bay. That's been going for over a year. There's live worship in both of those locations, and a high percentage of the preaching is done on a screen. Broadcast from PE. So we sync our service times with PE, right? And then level 3 is we're just watching in different towns and cities, and we're getting together midweek to try and build a bit of momentum and relationship to arrive at a gathering like there is in J-Bay or in Uitenhage. Does that make sense? Everybody
Absolutely,
clear about how that works?
Right,
and so, Chris, maybe you can tell us a little. Actually, you know what? Although Uitenhage has actually been going a little longer, Anthony is newer to the discussion. So maybe, Chris, if you can tell us how it's been going in J-Bay and some of the things we're learning about doing church this way. And I want to be clear, we don't think doing church a specific way is the perfect way. You just got to work out what's the perfect way for you and your people and what God's called you to do. So we absolutely validate all forms of church planting, growing, establishing, and launching. This is just something that's a tool in our hands that seems to have borne some fruit. So, Chris, over to you.
Yeah, it's. I think every church, the whole thing of multi-site and all of that is not a new thing, but I do think that we are all trying to find our way in this, and I think this is where it gets so exciting for us. I mean, even now that we did have the online thing that was already established, and looking at what that is going to generate for us into the future. But in Jeffreys Bay, we've been going for just over a year, and it was an original group that was already part of Father's House, the vision and the heart of the church, that started traveling through. And when there was a little bit of a momentum going with a specific group, the same happened in Uitenhage, even more so. Yeah. We decided, okay, now it's time to take the on-screen, on-stage thing, find a venue, find some people, and now building a dream team. And I think that's the exciting thing. I think people now suddenly find that there's places of need, places where we can serve and where we can be part of a volunteer team that we call the dream team, that can serve on Sundays with coffee, with ministry, with worship, like you said, in all these different spaces. So in Jeffreys Bay, Father's House is now starting to establish itself within this space, and immediately our reach goes a little bit further now, because now from the Koga region, we will go into Potensi and to Hankie and St. Francis and other places. So I think that's the wonderful thing of this model. It gives us the opportunity to just generate more and more momentum.
And you know, Chris, you touch on something very important there. When people are driving through, and by the way, when a church gets big, it gets harder to get involved and it gets harder to feel like you're connected. When you're driving through, you can't join a team so easily because you've got to be at church an hour and a half before it starts, you know. And if you've also got an hour's drive, you lose the opportunity. And so it works for a season, or when people have kids, for instance, and the kids are in the infant stage, then weekly drives of an hour is harder. And so to mirror what community is doing, we felt it was better to take church to some places rather than only expect people to come to us. And so there's a dynamic to it. There's something else I absolutely love about it, and that is that you can raise people who are great with people to run sites, even though they're not yet experienced as preachers. And so I felt like it opens the door for more leadership in wider categories of people than the exclusively the preacher style, which will need to be raised, no doubt about it. The word of God is still best heard preached, but you can, while you're developing that, still develop communities. And there's lots of evidence in Scripture of people who gathered in people's homes, and we don't know much about their ability to preach because the epistles or letters were sent to them to read out, and yet they were valid churches that gathered. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the big thing here is there's a combination that we have here where we're using the online thing, and like you say, as we keep on using this language that people need to get familiar with from online or from on screen to on stage, is
Yeah.
that we now can do it further. We can go further and we can go faster because
Good.
now we can sort of get people going in a specific space.
Yeah.
And as those gifts are developing within that space, we can start to release those gifts
Yeah.
in those spaces. And I think for me, that is the exciting thing
Yeah.
that's going to generate us much further faster
Frank,
into the future.
Frank Rotenbach says that the Foucher brothers are looking heavenly. I just thought I'd read that comment out loud. As far as which locations or geography, I mean, my feeling is you go where there's a need. And so when we've got a community of people watching online, they're connecting, reach out to us, we reach out to them. We want to marry you, dedicate you. We want to be part of your life. It's not just watching. Then we want to be available to create communities. And we'll trust God for a champion, somebody who can coordinate a WhatsApp group, help us book a venue, make sure it looks and feels like home. And we'll go wherever a need arises for that. So we've got people in Brazil who are in conversation with us about that because we've got a bunch of people there who watch together. There are a bunch of people who watch from all over the world, some of them not even far away, some down the road. Tarkastad has probably more people watching on daily devotions than any other single place at the moment. So we're keen to go wherever there is living water. If there's a well, we want to respond to that. And it also eliminates some of the tension around finding someone who wants to go from here and live somewhere and move their family and start something. That's a valid thing, but there's also another thing now that technology allows you to go ahead before the person even goes. And there's something about that that's really powerful. And I think we've got to start thinking about not just what our forefathers did to plant, but what will the next generation do to plant. And I think that the technology is going to open huge doors of opportunity. And in fact, let me be honest, I got to know more about people from my side. I got to know more about people through the comment section on Sundays online than I ever would on a Sunday service at church. And that can't replace, obviously, the in-person, the hugs, the handshakes, the laying on of hands. But you actually can go far until you need a champion in the room to take it further. And I'm not dismissing that. I mean, we're doing a marriage course, preparation course right now with 31 couples. And the response from everyone has been, that's almost better than live right now. Because we can sit in our lounges and have personal conversation about our marriage and then go back to the comment section and back and forth, which you can't do in a room of people because you wouldn't want to talk about your marriage out loud or your proposed marriage out loud to a room full of 29 other couples. And so it doesn't replace. I mean, discipleship needs both. But let's not kid ourselves. The Bible was written and then read from city to city, town to town, because the apostles couldn't go to all of them at the same time. So they weren't even there in person. They would literally say, read this out and learn from it, you know. So I think we've got some remarkable mirroring in just the difference being technology rather than a guy on a donkey with a parchment that goes to a different town and, you know, reads it. Hear ye, you know. So I think there's some value in being able to do that. And Mel, do you feel like that diminished what we were doing in the main location in PE?
No, I think something that's been incredible over this period is, even though especially at North End is a very large group of people gathering there on a Sunday, and we're used to seeing one another face to face on Sundays, but like you just mentioned, something that's been incredible is we started an online group, of a closed Facebook group, like Dean was mentioning earlier, for North End as well, and we're almost up to 500 people on that group. And that just shows me that we are getting to a point where, yes, Sunday is essential and the face-to-face contact is so important, But it's been phenomenal the last few weeks how myself personally and so many of the other pastoral team even have had so many one-on-one conversations that go beyond what we have on a Sunday time for, or that people's time allows on a Sunday. And it's given us so much more opportunity for just that personal connection and conversation that goes even beyond what we can get on a Sunday.
Yeah.
So it's been incredible that even though such a very large community of people that love gathering on Sundays, and we're so looking forward to doing that in future again. But right now, the online is even more of a cherry on the top. It's not taking away, but it's building towards us meeting and gathering again.
And you know, one of the things I love is that more people can do more things and develop their gifts and their abilities. Now, when you've got one big gathering, you need one team of worship. You need one team of ushers, whatever. Multiply that out, and you've got people taking a little step of faith, you know. And they might do it at the beginning when the church has 100 people and feel comfortable. And when the church is 500, they might tap out and do something else. But all the while, they've been growing. And they've been developing, and I really love that. Practically speaking, what does this look like? What do we do from here? Oh dear, we're running out of time. Practically speaking, what do? We have 10 minutes.
Something that has really been so good over this time that I also want to mention is the fact that, like you just said, so many people have the opportunity to step up in even just grow group environments where we have several grow group leaders already, but something that's happening at the moment is so many people are seeing more of a need of people needing to connect. And so they're stepping into those leadership areas and they're practically becoming grow group leaders. And that's something practically that's going to carry on beyond this time, I'm sure.
I agree. I think from the practicalities of what I'd like to see happen is, firstly, anyone who watches this now live or over the next few weeks as it sits on our YouTube channel and a bit on Facebook, I want to encourage you, connect. Reach out, send an email. To whom can they send an email that will say, hey, I live in this or that area. Is there something going on that I can be part of? What's a good email address to send that kind of request to?
I would say that they can email hello@fathershouseSA.org, and we have several mailers and groups that we can add your email address to and make sure that you're getting the weekly info as generally as a church, but also it will be specific to your area. So if you sign up and want to just get the Cape Town location or just North End or just Johannesburg, then we'll make sure that you fall into that group. Great. And we'll be able to contact
and if somebody says, hey man, I've got a bunch of friends in my town or in my city and we actually want to get together somehow, I would encourage you to send an email as well, and we will explore that with you. We'll engage with you, see what your expectations are, see what's realistic and what's possible, and we'll all work as servants. There are no titles being dished out. What we're doing is we're building together, serving the gospel and serving one another, and then the gifts will surface. You know, the worship leader will surface, the preacher will surface, the communicators will surface, the kids' church person will surface. Technology just allows us to light a fire. And I really want to encourage you to consider that. And if you're living in a part of the world, we're not dissing, that's an awful piece of slang, but we're not dissing churches in any geographic area. We're just recognizing that people relationally connect to a certain language. And if it connects with you, there are ways of working with that and building with that. And so we're looking for, I'm certainly looking forward in my retirement to be able to, like the Apostle Paul, travel from place to place and see wonderful communities all doing their thing, you know. And there is a big world out there to reach. So I never ask the question, are there good churches in a place, as to whether we should do something. They always ask the question, are there unchurched people there who aren't being reached? Because your evaluation is not relative to other churches. Your evaluation is, are there people, fish in the water, who would enjoy the flavor of the bait of the gospel that you present? That's the only question to ask. Otherwise, Otherwise, we just need one church in a town, and if people really wanted to, they would go. Now, that's not the attitude of evangelism. That's not the attitude of loving people, is to say, well, if you really wanted it, you would come get it here at this XYZ church because it's been here. We want to go and reach the world. That remains the mandate. You go and make disciples. You don't announce that they should come. And so we're able to do that just using technology and then expanding it. The second thing I want to say I'm very keen to do practically, and this has come from quite a couple of requests from people who are keen in their area to start something, is to perhaps have a monthly Zoom training, convo planning session, maybe more often than monthly if necessary, to actually get everybody using the same tools, thinking on the same plans, sharing strengths and resources that you've already discovered, so that each person doesn't go through a painful learning curve in order to arrive at the same destination. One person's pioneering should make it somebody else's painless journey. And so I'm hoping that we're able to do that and figure that out as we go forward. And so I hope that's helpful, everybody. We literally don't have more than a couple of minutes. Ryan, anything you want to say as far as what the plans look like and how we're managing from North End or PE to serve and support beyond?
I think that the exciting part for me is that this allows us to scale things and reach more people quicker. So often some of the limitations behind the scenes are trying to organize a budget or trying to organize a building. And in this way, we can far quicker go and meet the people out there who want to hear our expression of the gospel. And that's really exciting for me. It's been an awesome journey to watch Israel and Levi starting to engage with the people in their areas, even online at the moment. So we've seen people saying, hey, I really enjoy what Father's House do. I've followed you guys for a while. Now I get to meet someone and get to start actually starting a community. And that part really excites me. I think we can do things quicker and reach more people rather than having to be limited by budgets or buildings or finances and that type of thing.
And it's quite interesting, in the old school method that I grew up in on planting, your biggest budget request was to pray and trust God for a building, and then advertising, and then sound equipment, and then. And the guy who received sort of the greatest sacrifice and the last resort was the pastor. And I'm believing that should turn around. I believe a workman is worthy of his hire. I think the first thing you do is make sure that you can put a person in a place who can be taken care of to be mandated to reach people. And I think in the next generation, it's going to be completely different. I think we'll raise and release people. And then as technology builds the room, that will allow us to raise and release equipment and facilities and everything else. I don't believe the people will be lost. I think we'll reach people first, and then we'll put the technology behind it later. And I find it remarkable that the next generation's thinking like that.
Yeah, and George, what I think is really good is a young pastor, while he's learning his trade in this format, is not spending most of his time preparing for a message. He's spending most of his time getting to know people. And I think that's where the heart of being a pastor needs to start from. And I think people and the younger pastors will end up becoming better preachers for that. They're going to spend the first 3 or 4 years of their time really getting to know their people while they're learning to preach.
Got it. Well, Ryan, I couldn't think of a more pastoral way of ending this conversation. Thank you so much for expressing that. I think you said it brilliantly. And you're right. It's amazing how people learn to become pastors by being operational in so many ways. Anyway, that was mischievous on my part. Born in ops, we say here at Father's House. Michael Collier started out in operations. Cameron started out in operations. Lloyd starts out in operations. Cameron's still in operations, but the others have stepped into new roles. Well, we're done, everybody. Thank you so much for devoting your time with us. I'm tapping out of the Zoom chat and then closing up the rest of the conversation. Thank you, team, for your time. Hey, everybody, I hope that was helpful. Share this with anybody you feel could benefit from looking at taking the gospel to the rest of the world in an incredibly new way. We consider it a privilege to be alive at a time such as this. Have a great Monday, everybody. God bless you. Bye.